Welcome to this podcast, Mission GJ. At this time, we have Apostle Erickson Salazar and Pastor Judy Murillo. It is so good to flow here with the prophetic for the house. That's right. Pastor Judy, how are you? Hello. I'm doing very well and happy to be with you guys in this space. And we share that joy. Because today we'll be able to share with you and to gain knowledge about your experience in the mission. And along those lines, can you please share with us what's been your experience here in Generation Joshua and together with Apostle Erickson Salazar? Well, truly here in every moment from beginning to end is an experience. But I do want to share an experience that really marked me deeply. And I've never been able to share it with Apostle, but I feel like this is a great moment to do that. At some point a while back, I was given a phone, a cell phone. And at that time, that cell phone, that sewing came from the kingdom. And what I said was, this tool, I want to put it at the service of the kingdom. So one of the prophetic dials that I was at, where the apostle used to preach, I started, recording and recording some clips. And then when I was at home, I started editing and adding little things here and there, bubbles and things here and things there. And I made it look nice, and I uploaded it to the social networks. Apostle liked it, and then after that, he called me to the office. And he told me something that was really it was stamped in my heart. It was written in my heart to this day. The Holy Spirit reminds me of that each day. And it was these words: it does not matter how nicely and how well you do something. The important thing is to be consistent in order for it to be sustainable. And after that, he said, because being constant is what allows the Holy Spirit to entrust us with more. He told me that, and he has no idea that to this day, 9 years later, that's still present in me. And that is what has helped me to be able to take on the missions and to be able to take on what corresponds to me, to be able to be constant in my connection. And it's what always I have at the top of my mind. Everyone always brings up so many things here. You never know what they're going to bring up. They should change the podcast name to Feelings because it really touches the fibers in me. Because people talk about things that sometimes I don't even remember because it's a lot. What Judy's saying is within the frame of many things that happened with her, because that cell phone that she received, aside from the fact that she started being creative with it because she's very creative, but we also exposed her for her to work with she was the one that started sharing the apostolic guidelines of the ministry. Those from way back that are on Facebook, Judy was the one that created them. We saw that she was creative, so we said, hey, why don't you do this? We taught her how to be constant because the ministry is characterized by its consistency. We don't like to impress. We're not trying to impress anyone. God brought us from zero, from -0, using what we have. We don't use anything external. Everything's from the house. And you might ask why? Well, 2 reasons. First, because the matter of handling the ministry, that is something that the enemy rises up against, and those that don't understand that, they run away. That's why we can work with external people, because they won't understand. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the consistency. We need to be consistent. And usually those that are emotional, they want to make things up and do things, but they're not consistent in anything, because they're like those flashing lights. They turn on and off. They always have an idea. They always have a new idea, and it's always, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And you say, okay, very good, but let's structure it so that we can be consistent. That's why we believe in the structure. Everything that we see today cost us decades of work to be able to have consistency. Everything that we do has been with consistency. The prophetic word, the archives, everything that you see has consistency, and that says a lot, where you're talking about a ministry that is structured. And Pastor Judy, she wasn't a pastor yet at that time. We exposed her to begin to work those shorts, which are reels, of the apostolic guidelines and the prophetic guidelines. In those shorts, she's the one that would make them, and those were sent out weekly, all week, and she would record the clips and then send them out. By the way, what are now known as shorts in Facebook and reels on Instagram, that didn't exist before. You started sending out shorts and reels 9 years ago. See how interesting? We started doing those clips before they became what they are today. When we saw her creativity, we were like, sit here, let's teach you this. But look how she highlights one of the things that we motivate before anything. Oh, you have a proposal for us to do something? Okay, let's sit. Does that have a structure behind it? Because it has to be consistent. And that is why what impacted her was, let's say that everyone that knows me within management, they know that I'm very demanding in the terms of structure because of consistency. That here we don't deal with, oh, I can't do it, I can't do this today. No. There's no holiday, there's no December 31st. We don't believe in any of that. For us, it's working for the kingdom. And there was a podcast that we shared about eternity. We work for eternity. And those that work for eternity, they know that we're passing through. And those that are passing through, they're always producing. You understand? And I rejoice that I did not know that it had impacted her so much. But the reality is that what she doesn't tell you is that from there on till today, she's still being exposed in different areas. She's been exposed. And these are people that are behind the scenes, because nobody knows that she's the one that started with that. Today, that's being unveiled. That she's the one that makes the TikToks. She's the one that started the prophetic guidelines from the beginning. Because then she built a team, and that team learned and they transitioned. But the interesting thing is that I'm just realizing now that we were sending out shorts and reels 9 years ago. It's so cool, Lewis says, because within each experience, we see how each tool in the ministry is born. And at the beginning, I was the one doing it, but I was doing it in pictures with music. 1 minute clips of music and pictures. But then when I saw the videos and the filters and stuff, I said, hey, let's do this. When I saw that what she was making was better than mine, I said, hey, come here, let's use this. I knew she had the creativity, but I was teaching her about consistency for me to send her. And from there, we sent her to that project. Here, everything is a project. The T is a project. The prophetic guidelines are projects. The prophetic word is the oldest project of this ministry. It's been around for 20 plus years, before the ministry even started. The prophetic word has been around since before Generation Joshua. The prophetic word started being sent via email. It was via email, and then after that, via text, and then after that, BlackBerry, and then WhatsApp started, and then Facebook, and then Instagram came about, and that's how it just started growing. And that's another project. Prophetic Archives is another project, which are the messages from and sermons from 13, 14 years ago that came out during the pandemic. And now the monologues and the podcasts and all these things, these are other projects, but these are projects, which are projects of the many that are on the way. But it's impressive how Judy talks about consistency, how the apostolic gives credibility to anything, any project, if you have a structure for it to be consistent. I think about consistency right away. You can impress me with what you have, and I want to add something. Judy says that something very powerful is that in the midst of that same exposition where you're being delegated, that you also have to confront things going against yourself, going against everything that comes up, because the objective is to be consistent in the mission. Because it's like you would tell me, yeah, okay, very nice, you did it once, but then what's next? We're not going to keep expanding the kingdom. So that's what has made me like, okay, have the courage and keep pushing no matter what happens, no matter what's going on around my environment. We have to take on the mission the way it corresponds. And that's what helps us to integrally apply structure, apply the knowledge. We apply those principles. That's deep, Lewis says. To execute a mission with consistency is not easy. Apostle says it's not easy when you operate independently. But if you operate as a body, and other than that, if you are somebody that's connected, even though that's not going to make it easier, but you have the authority because the Holy Spirit helps you. So what happens? That in reality, the word says that our fight is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and the powers of evil. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not that evil is rising up against us. It's that we are rising up against the enemy. So it's not that you're going to get flowers thrown at you. When we send Judy in that mission, she could write books about everything that she has lived through, as far as everything that has manifested itself in the midst of every mission. You understand? So that is why the apostolic is always training, preparing, training, because people think it's easy. Come do it. Come do it. Come sit here and let me show you how easy it is. Sit here on this chair. For people that are looking from the outside, it seems easy. It's easy to put the cup there the first 10 times, but the time 11 is going to be the tough one. And we've been in the ministry for more than 25 years, consistently. And the word teaches that the signs have to continue. And apostolic ministry is recognized by the signs. This is not like, oh, that I am. Show me your works. Show me your works. Because without works, your faith is worth nothing. This is not about show and pretending. And I like something, like it happened with Pastor Judy, that when we talk about those warriors behind the scenes, that they're taking on missions, and many don't know where some things come from. And it was powerful because there's so many talents, but people that want to submit are very few. Very few. And we see a lot of talent, and there are people that don't want to give their talent to God. They don't want to. In the contrary, they have their talent for their own benefit. And I use it for me. Or for me, or however I want to give it. It's not, the talent is not for you, and it's not for you to use it how you want to. That is why Christ established the rules of the game within the ministry. And those that don't go through that filter, the structure, they don't have the seal of the Spirit. So we're talking about structure. What I'm saying is that the Spirit won't sponsor you if you violate the established. So the apostolic, what it structures, it filters it through the apostolic. The apostolic is the structure that Christ established. So when something fits those standards, then you know that that's going to have a consistency because it's going to have the sponsoring of the Spirit. So those things can be done because there's a sponsoring of the Spirit only. Because what moves in our environment, what moves around us, it's not that we're not getting flowers thrown our way. If people knew everything that we go through to record here, supernatural things, they would say, no, I don't want to do this. How things come up and you say, this is not normal. Of course it's not normal. But the big deal is that the abnormal thing is not what's going on. The abnormal ones are us because we don't finally figure out that this is always going to happen. It's always going to happen. And in this case of Judy, we threw her out. We said, here, do it. We started with a little cell phone and with the resources of everyone, because that's another thing. Everything that we do here is with the technical resources from what we have. In the sponsorship of the Father, we've seen increase, but we started with what we had. It's like God told Moses. Moses was feeling the pressure, and God said, use what you have. I only have a rod. Use the rod. But the rod is not that he had anything magical, but it was the one that sent him. Say wow, Louis. Say wow. Wow. The one who sends you. That's when everyone gets confused. This is not about the talent that you have or the gift that you have. This doesn't have to do because we need what you have. No, it has to do with who sent you. I've ended up using people that didn't know anything about TV or about photography, anything. And we had to prepare those that didn't know, because the ones that knew filled up with ego and glory. And that's good, that's not bad, because at the end, there's something that we have to understand. The one that takes the glory is God, not us. For the Holy Spirit to be able to flow, it needs to be in clay vessels. And there are people that you have to process them until they become clay, because they still have some things that we need to take off. Lewis says, is it good because of the manifestation that's showing? Apostle says, yes, because we are talking about the ministry, not about people. Because anyone can become an artist or a star, but in the body, no. In the body, there needs to be a balance. That's why I tell you that there are some steps that can help us to know who has the prophetic line to flow, because what you want is to flow, not the talent itself that you're looking for, because the talent will show up one way or another, but those who depend, which is what creates the consistency, because the consistency is under submission to the Spirit. Without that, there's no way to be constant. That's why there are people that are up and down, up and down. There are people that can move the cup 10 times, but the 11th time there's a problem, or I hurt, or my financial situation, everything happens. Those that are kingdom, they surpass anything and they do what they need to do. Judy, what other experience have you had in the midst of all this ministerial development? Well, another experience that impacted me a lot was an occasion where we went with you and some other pastors or other people, and we were going to go meet with a sister, somebody from the ministry that had lost a loved one. And for me, it was impactful because being in a space that was so sad and so down, it was handled in such a way, and the way so that you did it so delicately and so detailed. The details that we have with the person impacted me so much. But the biggest thing was that after that, I had to go take on something similar, and I was able to do it. I was able to know how to do it and understand what the handling was in that mission when my turn came. That was another experience that marked me a lot, because I didn't know that you could handle that sort of environment with so many details and so carefully, even though it was the type of moment that it was, of loss and sadness. Apostle says, yes, that's in one occasion where I took, since the demand has increased so much during that mission, which was a funeral. It was in a province of the Dominican Republic. It was kind of far. And I took Pastora Mirna and Pastora Judy, two pastors that were not the part of the group that I would always travel with, because they worked in different areas. But it was in the midst of so much demand that I had to bring them, together with the family that had lost the relative. So we went to visit them and went to the funeral. And Judy saw the way that it was handled, the apostolic, and how all the details that we had, and how we handled the family, how we went to sit with them and ate with them and to share, give them encouragement, but at the same time with grace and wisdom. And they took notes because they had never been out with me. They had never traveled with me, just us. And they were like two little girls, like two kids. Where are we with Dad? And they were just absorbing everything. Because they weren't used to being out of missions with me, these sort of missions, and they learned a lot. And look what she says today, that it helped her know how to handle situations like that. And how powerful that's what we do, that everyone who gets involved in a mission, independently from giving, they also learn. That is why the Life Manual always teaches us that giving is how we receive. You have to give in order to receive. And that teaches us so much, because no matter the occasion, the moment, the circumstance, you always have to give. You always have to sow. And like Pastora Judy said, she didn't know that in that moment like that, you could minister and influence and have detail. And she learned a lot that could be done in that moment, because sometimes we go to some events like that, in this case funerals, and we don't feel like there's anything that we could do other than giving our condolences. No, it's a hand in hand. It's support. You cry with those that cry, and you laugh with those that laugh. But you also give them encouragement and strength, and you share, and you take them out of the atmosphere of the sadness a little bit and take them to another space where they can share and they can reestablish them. And there are many elements that can be used in that. And I was saying during a podcast about the details, a podcast that we shared here, the importance of details. And I was saying that there are people that don't realize they have arms and they have ears. And with your arms, you can hug those that need a hug, especially in that moment. There are people that need an ear. They need to be heard. Now, don't go out there and start hugging people. It is something guided by the Spirit. It's something within the guidelines, because it's a matter of administrating what you have. And it is important to know how to handle yourself in each time or place. And the apostolic teaches that a lot. And that's why we are always bringing people and saying, hey, come with me, and teaching and forming and structuring. From one end, you execute what you need to execute, and then you're bringing people to learn how it's done. Because we have so much to give. Like the word says, we have so much. We have to give vision to the blind, help the one that can walk, those that can't speak. You say, how? Yeah, there are people that are blind to see the truth in their lives, or deaf because they can't understand things. And when the people come with their fruit they model, the fruit breaks so much, and it's such that the Life Manual says that against those things there are no laws. The fruit breaks philosophies, it breaks hardened hearts, it breaks the marks, pains, and only with the fruit. But the fruit comes out of somebody that really fulfills the prophetic codes established in the Life Manual. And like Pastor Judy says, where she went from service, being sent to missions, to another sphere, and it teaches you, so they send people everywhere. The important thing is that consistency is what's going to mark everything. And there's a constant teaching for everybody to know where things come from. And everything comes from Him. We have always said, if you're going to do something, do it for God the Father. Because consistency comes from that. I am constant because of who I do things for. If I did them for you, that has a shelf life. It doesn't matter who I do it for, it has a shelf life. If I do it for the Father, you're going to be constant. Like you say, that's a secret. Or like you said, now everything makes sense. The secret is to do things for the Father. Consistency is a product of who you do things for. If you can write that down, write it down. And we have to understand that everything we do is exalting God the Father. Everything we do is to make Him greater. Many don't know that there are many that are watching us. They're fixated, paying attention. And there's nothing that breaks more and that calls more the attention than that consistency of what you do or who you do things for. That breaks barriers, that breaks marks. And that above all does something that brings us to a level of prosperity, and it's the sponsoring of God the Father.
Gracias por sintonizar nuestro podcast Misión GJ. Nos vemos en un próximo episodio.